Hello, my name is Lindsay Lindsey, and I'm currently a student at the University of South Alabama College of Medicine. I wanted to tell you why I believe art education is so important and how it was integral for me to get to where I am now. I wanted to be an artist since I was 8. I grew up seeing art on the walls and in various stages of completion. The year I turned 8, my parents sent me to my grandmother's house for my first annual art camp. It was a week of just her and I learning the basics of drawing and painting. However, a few years later, my father, who was a pharmaceutical sales rep at the time, took me to work with him, and I discovered medicine. It's no surprise that between take your daughter to work days and painting weeks with my grandmother that I oscillated between wanting to be an artist and a physician for much of my childhood. By my junior year in high school, art was my passion, but I thought medicine was a better career path. That year, I made my first bust in clay. My art teacher counseled me on the difficulty of taking 2D images and making 3D sculptures. Specifically, she said not to be disheartened if it looked like an alien. But as I started the sculpture, everything seemed to fall into place. I knew the angle of the brow, the line of the nose. I understood exactly the depth of the eye and the curve of the lip. It just felt right. As I made my first sculpture of a face, I thought, if I could do this with clay, could I do this with medicine? A few years later, I had the opportunity to shadow a reconstructive surgeon. As he trimmed a piece of cartilage to build up the bridge of the nose, I asked him how he knew what shape to make. And he told me it's just what felt right. It was at that moment that I realized how truly art and medicine could align. I saw how a doctor could have the hands and the heart of a sculptor. This was how I could make my passion into a career. So I started looking at undergrad programs that would let me combine art and science together. Let me tell you, I got a lot of really strange looks. I interviewed at a dozen universities, and one university flat out told me it wasn't even possible. It was very clear. I could either be an artist or I could be a scientist, but not both. If I received a merit scholarship and an art scholarship, I could pick one or the other, but not use both. And then the University of Alabama, a school near the bottom of my list, an in-state public school that I only applied to because my mom forced me to, not only told me I could do it, they were absolutely thrilled. Both the pre-med and art programs began coordinating to figure out how I could do this before I even arrived on campus. And though I received both art and merit scholarships from a lot of schools, only Alabama allowed me to combine both scholarships together so that I ended up getting paid to go to undergrad, not the other way around. Most of my sculptures are medically and scientifically based. There is a leg on point and various forms of metal. I made a bronze bust with one side of the face exposed to the muscles and bones, and a sculpture based on the mathematical Fibonacci sequence. My sculpture professor often laughingly describes my sculptures as a metal version of a gross anatomy class. I cannot tell you how many opportunities I was given in undergrad because of the uniqueness of my studies, but probably my biggest opportunity and greatest accomplishment was the Fibonacci project. During my sophomore year, I designed a sculpture based on the Fibonacci spiral. The Fibonacci spiral is based on a sequence of numbers that is a series where the previous 2 numbers add to make the third. My favorite thing about the series is that it's found everywhere. It is in math, obviously. In art, we use the golden ratio, which is based on the sequence, to plan out works of art. It's used in physics, music, architecture. Even nature makes use of the series in sunflowers and the nautilus shell. It is the perfect embodiment of science and art. So I designed a sculpture based on the Fibonacci sequence, 7-foot-tall, 3-dimensional representation of the spiral. The idea started with sketches and then progressed to model after model. Finally, Dr. Judy Bonner, then provost of the university, offered to fund the creation of the sculpture so that it could be added to the permanent outdoor sculpture collection on campus. After several years of construction, the Fibonacci sculpture was installed in the fall of 2013, a cornerstone piece of the Woods Quad Sculpture Garden. It was an amazing, frustrating, and fulfilling project, and it brought me so much more than the satisfaction of making a piece of art. The uniqueness of majoring in art and science made me a competitive applicant for medical school. Without art, I would have just been another biology major who wanted to be a doctor. While my background in art did help me get into medical school, ultimately, I believe majoring in sculpture will make me a better doctor. While I majored in sculpture because I love creating art with my hands, I believe it is just as applicable to medicine as a degree in science. I realized medicine would always give me something new to learn and strive for. I saw that it could give me an outlet to use my creativity to better the lives of others. But without that foundation of art that I received in middle and high school, I would not have received the preparation needed to even begin on this journey. I would not have left undergrad without the weight of student loans. I wouldn't have been able to make the Fibonacci project. I would not have been a competitive medical school applicant. I wouldn't have been able to use art to better the lives of others through medicine. And just as importantly, I would have missed out the joys of creating something beautiful with my own hands. Thank you for taking the time to support the arts. Without people like you, there would not be these kind of opportunities for people like me. Please continue to support our education in our schools, because even if we do not all become professional artists after taking these classes, we do become better, more well-rounded people who develop the propensity to positively shape our world. Thank you.